What's good? Hump Day, Lucky Lefty Podcast. Your boy SD2 Mike's right here. Of course, I'm not solo right now. Got my big bro in the building. Left is in the friendly skies. He lands in 30 minutes. So we're going to give you, since we missed you guys yesterday, because Left was doing Eastern Michigan and Akron on CBS Sports Network. Great game, went to overtime. Can't wait to recap a little bit of that with Left when he taps in. But of course, we are on CFB Nation, man, courtesy of Twisted Tea. See, it's better harmony, bro. When I got Malik with me, we know how to harmonize a little bit.
Probably neither one of y'all are great singers, man.
You already know.
Hey.
You know how it is when we get in the crib by ourselves or in the shower. Everybody thinks they can, do a little tune, sing something like the Whispers of Earth, Wind, and Fire, and try to act like we're one of the lead singers. But man, it's a great day. College football, plenty to talk about, and who better to talk about it with than our big brother here on the program, Coach Carl Reed, college football analyst, 24/7 Sports, and CBS Sports, man. I just realized that you and Malik are brothers, man. You guys are both locked in with CBS Sports.
Yeah, man. They excited about him over there. He doing some great things, man. He his knowledge, man, and his experience is what he accomplished as a player just gives him a different point of view and perspective, when he's on the call for the game, man. So it's a big addition to the group.
Man, I love watching him and listening to him. I tell him every week, bro, you get better every week. With every game, just keep grinding, you get better. True story, Notre Dame fans will love this. You'll love this too. He was supposed to do the Fresno State game on last Saturday. He got the assignment like the previous weekend. So he gets a call on Tuesday saying, you know what? We're going to have you call the Colorado State game and fly you to Colorado instead of staying home, because that was his first game in his home state. So he was happy. He's been flying to the East Coast pretty much all season, 4-hour flights, worn out. He's like, man, I get to stay home. He gets the call and was like, yeah, Big Aaron wants to stay home and do the Fresno State game. So we're going to send you to Colorado. And he said, man, it was my Notre Dame brethren. So I was cool with it. Yeah. But Aaron Taylor has a little more seniority. And he was like, you know what? Take Malik off that game. Give me the Fresno State game and send him to Colorado. But he said he was cool with it. He understood. And he said, that's my big brother, man. So I'm all good with it. Notre Dame fans, you probably love that story. Let's get to it, bro. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about scandal, recruiting, transfer portal. You've been doing a lot of educating and putting forth a lot of tweets about what's going on right now with these recruits and how important it is for parents to educate themselves during the process. So in 30 minutes, we're going to try to stuff a lot in. If you have your questions for Coach Carl Reed, go ahead and put it in there. GTB, get to the bag. That's what we do best here. So put GTB, your question, and we'll get it to Coach Carl Reed before we get out of here. The relationship between Sam Hartman and Notre Dame fans has become a little rocky because of disappointment in his performance. We can sit here and place a lot of blame. We can talk about injuries, offensive line, system, play calling, all of that. But I want to go back to the genesis, which was Tommy Rees reaching out, having a conversation with him, and convincing him that Notre Dame was the place for him. And Tommy Rees having the vision and having to sell him the vision to get him to choose Notre Dame. In your opinion, what's the impact of Tommy leaving and going to Alabama and the person that had the vision for Sam Hartman no longer being there? And do you think that plays a part into what we've seen on the field from Sam Hartman?
Well, it's significant because Sam Hartman was successful at Wake Forest playing a very specific style of offense. And I think that Tommy had a vision on how he could build on that. And so if you look at it, like I remember I told you guys when I was on here in the spring when the move was going on, I said, guys, Tommy Rees is a lot better than what you guys are giving him credit for. Tommy Rees is a very good offensive play caller, which is why one of the main reasons that Alabama is about to play in another SEC championship game. And if they win, they'll be in the college football playoffs. Tommy's done an incredible job with Jalen Milroe. So I think that when you have a coordinator change, you can't just put Sam Hartman into a cookie cutter offense. He runs a lot of slow mesh routes, a lot of crossing stuff he did at Wake Forest. You almost have to build around exactly what he did there, and because he's not a 9 route thrower. He's not a guy that can throw every single route on the chart. There's some things that he does really well, but there are some throws that he really struggles to make. So when you're building your offense around him, you got to understand that.
Notre Dame offensive coordinator Jared Parker said this yesterday during his press conference. As a coach, I have to get your opinion. I have to. He was questioned about the number of play action plays that was called against Clemson. They only called 2, if I'm not mistaken, maybe it's 3 play action plays the entire game. He said Clemson is a man-to-man defense. And when you're facing a team that's primarily man-to-man, there's really no need to throw a lot of play action because of the eye discipline or because of their eyes. What's your thoughts on that? And do you subscribe to that as a coach?
Well, it depends on what kind of play action we're talking about. Are we talking receiver play action? Because if you're talking outside receivers, then he would be correct. They're playing man-to-man defense anyway. But things that have to do with the tight ends, with the slot receivers coming across the middle, those play actions can hold those linebackers and open up passing lanes on the middle of the field. So I try not to question play calling from coaches because they know their teams, better than we do, but
Mhm.
I do think that play action is an important part of the game, especially for the guys that play in the box.
Where do you see the program right now in year 2 under Marcus Freeman? Because a lot of people are panicking right now when it comes to Marcus Freeman in this program. You cover recruiting, I cover recruiting. I tell people all the time, you position room by position room, they're better than they were at the end of Brian Kelly's regime at Notre Dame. So, as much as you might not be seeing what you want to see on the field, at the foundation, from a talent standpoint, things are improving. Well, how do you assess where things are in the Notre Dame program?
I tell people all the time that comparison is the thief of joy, right?
Mm, mm.
When a guy like Brian Kelly leaves, now everybody hated him. Nobody liked him. We can't stand the guy. He's this, he's that, you know, whatever. Brian Kelly is a damn good football coach. He's won everywhere he's been at every single level from Division II all the way up to the top level. He's won. He knows how to run a football program. Anytime your head coach leaves, there's going to be a transitional point. Notre Dame is a very tough job for that to be your first head coaching job. That wasn't Brian Kelly's first coaching job. It was like his 5th head coaching job. So he had a lot of experience at that point, in how to run a program. I think Marcus Freeman is on a good trajectory for his 2nd year being the head coach at Notre Dame, for some of the staff losses that he endured, for some of the players, the turnover that they've had. And also, he's in a new era. He has to build his program in a transfer portal and NIL era, which is different. Notre Dame is not necessarily very competitive as some of these other schools when it comes to NIL money. So that also adjusts recruiting a little bit. So I think he has still been able to recruit, though, at a high level. He has still had really good recruiting classes. I think Marcus Freeman is going to do a really good job at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a program where everybody wants to win a national championship. And so anytime you're not in the race, there's going to be some criticism, and it comes with the job.
I want to go to your home state, the show me state. I'm right next door to you, coach. It's a rivalry, man. We got the big rivalry coming up with the game, fighting Illini in Missouri coming up in about 3 weeks, bragging rights. I missed the football game. I don't know who backed out of it. I think it was Illinois that backed out of the series, but I missed the football
Yeah,
game to
yeah.
start the season. I want to get your thoughts on the talent in St. Louis that I think has been vastly underrated up until now. Because I think teams are recognizing Power Five teams, big time teams. Notre Dame has definitely recognized it because they keep going back there every year. They got Aeneas Williams coming in this year. You know, they got Christian Gray from last year. You can go back to Gabriel Rubio, Tyson Ford. They continue to mine the St. Louis area.
Don't forget Kyron Williams.
Kyron Williams, even before that, just and I'm sure I'm missing some others because they really committed to that area. Jeremiah Love, I
Yes,
failed to mention.
yes.
What is it about that area right now? Because it seems a lot of urban areas, we know how the migration in some of these northern urban cities, like Chicago, a lot of kids from Chicago, you see them now playing out in California because their family moved, or down south because their family moved. St. Louis has continued to like create D1 Power Five top prospects year after year. What is going on in St. Louis, man?
I mean, it's been like that for a long time, man. Like
Yeah,
this is nothing new. It's always been an incredible amount of players. I mean, I can go back to the '90s. We had Ken Berry from Priory High School who went to Notre Dame and played running back at Notre Dame. You guys may remember when James Aldridge was at Notre Dame. Now
mhm.
he played his senior year at Maryville High School in Indiana.
Indiana.
He's
Yeah,
from St. Louis. He's a born and raised St. Louis guy up through his junior year of high school, and then his dad got a job out there in Maryville. So there's been a bunch of big time players from St. Louis. When you look around the league, you got Jamison Williams, played at Alabama, first round pick. Sheldon Richardson, Ronnie Perkins now is playing on the Denver Broncos. I mean, you just got a bunch of guys from the city, and we have a tremendous participation in youth football. Our JFL Junior Football Pro League programs in St. Louis is second to none, and I think those kids can compete against anybody in the country. But we've got a lot of guys who have had a lot of success playing college football. Some of the best players in the nation are from St. Louis. Just had the number one wide receiver in the country, Ryan Wingo, going to the University of Texas in the class of 2024.
yeah.
Luther Burden, you see what he's doing at the University of Missouri, you know. So, I mean, it's just a bunch of really, really talented guys. Miles McVay plays on the offensive line at the University of Alabama. Toriano Pride is playing corner at Clemson.
Yeah.
A bunch of really talented guys, and it's an easy area to travel to for coaches. Major metropolitan city with a good airport, so all the college coaches come through. It's been a lot of time. Zeke, how did I forget Zeke? Ezekiel Elliott,
Yeah.
another St. Louis guy. So it's been a bunch of guys coming out of there.
It's a guy from St. Louis that's constantly on our show called Coach Vic, and he's always repping St. Louis hard in the chat,
Yeah,
hard in the chat.
I know Vic. That's my dog.
That's your dog. And
Yeah.
Vic and I get into it because I said, look, I said the best two programs in the state of Illinois, just all around athletic programs, are probably Simeon and East St.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about basketball, baseball, football, just constantly like producing top talent. I said it's Simeon and East St. And boy, Coach Vic starts throwing out names, and I'm like, Coach Vic, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just saying, I didn't say who was one, who was two. I'm just saying this is the best. And I look at that area and I see why Coach Drink has been able to do the job he's been able to do with the Missouri Tigers, man. And why they're sitting in the top 10 of the college football playoff rankings. I thought early on against Georgia, I thought they had a really good shot in that game, coach. I really did. And then Georgia just kind of took over. But you mentioned Luther Burden. I'm going to transition and use his situation because Coach Drinkowitz before the season was very open about allowing Luther to be best in the slot. And the reason this is kind of twofold because the wide receiver position at Notre Dame, especially with injuries, has been a problem to a lot of fans and it's kind of stagnated the offense in the eyes of a lot of people. But Luther Burden was moved to the slot and his game exploded. And he played a little bit more outside last year. And I think he talked about Marcus Levette and how he was mainly in the slot last year. And once he transferred, it allowed, Luther to really move to a position that will allow him to just explode on the scene and use more of his talents. With the transfer portal, in my opinion, I don't think the transfer portal is what it is quite is what it's going to be quite yet. I think it's still evolving. And I think coaches and everyone around college football are trying to figure out like where's this thing gonna land? Where's it eventually going to just settle? But just talk about that, the willingness of kids to like leave programs where they have success to go to another program, what goes into that decision making. Some people say it's a lateral move for Levette to go to Georgia from Missouri, and if he had stayed in Missouri, how more formidable the offense could have been. But yet still his move allowed Luther Burden to go to the slot and it kind of explode. Just talk about that and that dynamic and what's really going into the thought process of these young men, because you've been educating a lot of them offline.
Well, I think that you have to look at every situation from an individualistic point of view. The reason that Dominic Lovett had for leaving Missouri and going to Georgia are his reasons and his alone. But can you argue with going to a program that hasn't lost a game in 3 years, right? And that's trying to compete for that third straight national championship. Now his role was reduced in that move. On the flip side of that, you can't have a revisionist history because Luther is playing the position that Lovett would be playing. So if Lovett was still at the University of Missouri, he would be playing in the slot and Luther would still be on the outside. And we would be talking about Dominic Lovett being a first-round draft pick and maybe not potentially Luther. So, he got to step into that star role, that featured receiver spot in that offense. I think that when I talk to kids the most, what I tell them is you have to be willing to accept the outcome for the decision that you make, right? So if you choose to leave and it doesn't work, you gotta be able to live with that. If you choose to stay and it doesn't work, you gotta be able to live with that. I think that they deserve the right to make those decisions on their own, but and some people make it for different reasons. Some people it's a football decision. Some people it's an NIL decision. But for whatever reason you make that decision, you gotta live with it.
Yeah. Where do you see the evolution of the transfer portal, Coach? Because you predicted on our show, I want to say over a year ago, you said, look, man, this transfer portal is really going to start affecting high school juniors and seniors and their decisions of where they go. And schools are going to prefer to go into the portal and to go get some of these kids. And when you said it, it really kind of hit me like, wow, I guess you're right. And what are the next steps in the evolution of the transfer portal, in your opinion?
The transfer portal is going to be bigger than National Signing Day.
Wow.
The opening day of the transfer portal. I know we have a big show that we do on it on 24/7. The thing is, what it has done with high school kids, to be honest with you, now that I look really deep into this, it hasn't hurt them as much as it placed them where they should have initially probably been, right? So if you're one of the top 100 to 150 players in the country, the transfer portal hasn't affected you at all. Those guys still have the options to go to all of the top schools in the country. Like the transfer portal didn't affect Jeremiah Love. It didn't affect Christian Gray, right? It didn't affect those guys. They could have played anywhere in the country that they wanted to go. But it does affect the guy who maybe is an FCS player, but he could sneak into Eastern Michigan, right? It affects a guy who probably should have been playing at Eastern Michigan, but he might have got an opportunity to go to Illinois. He might have got an opportunity to go to Minnesota. So now what it's forcing you to do is it's forcing you to go somewhere and prove that you can really play. The example that I use with everybody is Cody Schrader. the running back at Missouri. Cody Schrader is a guy that I felt like was a Division I player coming out of high school, but instead of crying about being slept on and all that, he went to a Division II school. He led the nation in rushing. Then he went in the portal. Now he's at Missouri. He leads the SEC in rushing. Just the productivity. If you really are productive, then guess what? It's going to all work out for you anyway.
Coach Carl Reed right here, college football analyst, CBS Sports, 24/7 Sports. And don't forget the podcast, Coach Reed Live. Hey, Coach Reed gets some of the swaggiest, dopest guests on his podcast on any podcast in college football. I'm telling you, tap in with him. Coach Reed Live, Instagram, Twitter, Coach Reed Live, the podcast. You need to tap in. It's one of the best podcasts out there. Talking with him right now, CBF Nation, Twisted T, CFB Talk. What were your thoughts on the rankings last night? Do you think Georgia's done enough to jump Ohio State to that #1 spot? And you talked about Tommy Rees and Alabama. Let's go ahead and forecast that SEC championship game. Like, is that going to be a typical Saban, Kirby Smart battle? Or do you think one team has the upper hand going into that game at this point?
You know, it's going to be a typical battle. But Georgia has the advantage because Georgia's won the last couple of matchups, and Georgia is the reigning champions. And they might have a little psychological advantage because these kids at Alabama haven't beaten Georgia yet. So that's a difference. But one thing about it, I think, man, nobody prepares their team better than Nick Saban in the country, who's consistently been better at producing the kind of team you need than he has, right? In terms of the college football playoff rankings, what I always say to that is that it always plays itself out. Ohio State, Michigan, somebody's got to lose their game. That's going to knock somebody out. Georgia, Bama, knock somebody out. It always plays itself out by the end of the season. But I do think that you don't have one clear-cut favorite team. You're going to have to play really good football. And I do think that if it comes down to coaching, because the teams are evenly matched, you got to give the edge to Nick Saban.
You know what? I am really looking at this, and what Georgia and Kirby are doing is beyond impressive. And I said this early in the year. I thought this was a year where the chase for the national championship was more wide open than it's ever been, because there really was no great team to start the season. But I said there's one team that has an opportunity to be great, in my opinion. And I felt like Georgia was that team. I was like, Georgia is the team that has an opportunity to be great. And I still kind of feel that way. You know what impresses me the most about Georgia, especially offensively, Coach? And please, tap into this. They have a chess piece. 19 is he's a dude, man. He's a dude, right? 4-star, wasn't a 5-star, but when he gets there, he's a 5-star in the field. Like I could care less what his recruiting ranking is. He's a chess piece. He goes down against Vanderbilt, and Lab McConkey becomes the chess piece. They're not doing anything spectacular, man. They just have their chess piece. They use their chess piece in motion and other things to dictate and give their young quarterback an idea of what's being done by the defense. They started to run the ball a little bit better the last 2 games because they were struggling running the ball a little bit early in the season. And then they just run a lot of comebacks, crossing routes. And Carson Beck has done a really good job of protecting the ball. He struggled against Auburn with that, and that's why that game was close. But as the season is going on, you saw him mature. And that was my thing. Like, if Carson Beck matures and they can run the ball and that young defense, they lose their captain on defense, and everybody was worried about, oh, man, what are they going to do without their middle linebacker and captain against Ole Miss in that offense? And C.J. Allen comes in and just true freshman just balls out. I think they are potentially the one great team that could be standing at the end of the year. But I'm impressed with what, like you mentioned, they haven't lost a game in 3 years. And I'm impressed with what, in this current state of college football, what Kirby Smart has been able to do.
Well, what he's been able to do, he's been able to recruit at a very high level, and he's not letting his team beat themselves.
Yeah.
They're very sound on defense, but even more sound, they are always very freaky with the level of talent that they have. If you've ever been down there and seen them guys, there are some freaky deaky dudes.
Yo,
playing for Georgia
Malik
Bulldogs.
always says the first day of practice from him when he transferred to Florida, he said, dude, them dudes up front down there, they totally different. He
Yeah,
said it's totally different. So
it's
what
a
you're
different
talking
ball.
about, yeah.
And from an offensive standpoint, they play very basic, but they allow their offensive line to work. They
Yeah.
complete the passes on the route tree, and then they run the ball downhill effectively. They play assignment football, but they're playing it with the best players that college football has to offer.
Yeah.
And Brock Bowers is from a different planet,
Man.
so he's something altogether different.
Who else, in your opinion, has a chess piece like that offensively? We have some great offenses. I can't wait to see the
Marvin
rematch of
Harrison,
Oregon.
Ohio State with Marvin
Mm,
Harrison.
mm,
If Marvin Harrison doesn't get hurt last year in the playoffs, we may be having a different conversation with
true.
Ohio State and Georgia.
True.
You
True.
know, those are guys. Football is a numbers game, but when you have players like Harrison and Bowers, you can change the numbers because it takes two and sometimes three people that you have to put focus on them because
Mhm.
they can completely take a ball game over.
We're probably going to see a rematch of Oregon and Washington out west. Do you think Washington can pull it off again? And if not, is there any chance that both teams can still get to the playoff if Oregon ends up winning that Pac-12?
I don't see them both getting in. The winner's getting in, the loser's going to be out.
Wow.
It's tough beating the team twice, but they can do it. Washington does not get a lot of credit because Coach DeBoer is not. He doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't really make himself very accessible, from a media standpoint. But man, he's a special football coach, man. He's done a lot of winning everywhere he's been. They win. He started his career off as a NAIA national champion, won several national championships at the NAIA level. But Washington is loaded offensively at the receiver position, and they got a quarterback who can get him the ball that's been with his head coach for a really long time. So it's going to be an exciting game, but we'll see how it goes.
As we get ready to let Coach Reed go, we greatly appreciate you today, Coach, for joining us. I want to throw something at you. Why does it seem like the scrutiny of one Caleb Williams has hit an all-time high? Because I know the game he had against Notre Dame, like, yo, Al Golden just, admittedly said, yo, I called my former employee, Coach Amarula, asked him about the game plan we used in the AFC Championship game against Patrick Mahomes, and we kind of implemented that same game plan against him that day, pushing him to his left in the pocket and, just covering downfield and trying to rattle him, and we got him to turn the ball over. But he hasn't turned the ball over. Now, he hasn't been as spectacular as, his Heisman season and everything, but he hasn't been turning the ball over via the pass. His ball security is something that the last 2 years, because he's such a playmaker, that's something he's going to have to clean up, the fumbles and everything. But why do you think the scrutiny is hitting all-time high for Caleb Williams? And is that something that you feel like he's brought on himself?
Well, they build you up to tear you down. It's like Jay-Z said in his song, they build you up to bring you down and tear you down again.
Yeah.
They say, bring him back to life so we can kill his ass again, and that's
Right.
kind of what Caleb is going through. When you win the Heisman Trophy, when you're on every commercial, when you leave Oklahoma and go with USC in a very controversial move by not only your head coach but yourself, and you go to a program that wants championships, the criticism comes with it. When they say you the number one pick, when they say that you're willing to go back to college if you don't get if the right team doesn't give you what you want in terms of coming out, but the bottom line is this: you didn't win.
Yeah.
And
Facts.
whether you on TV every day or not, whether you say the right thing or you don't, people want you to win, and everybody can't win. In order for there to be winners, there has to be losers. You can't have a Washington and an Oregon without winning, without having a USC losing. And so that is the game. And unfortunately, if you want to be a player, if you want to be a coach, if you Marcus Freeman and you want to be the coach at Notre Dame and you don't win, there's an expectation. If you Caleb Williams, there's an expectation. No matter who you are, you Harbaugh had a rocky start at the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
There's an expectation for winning. If you don't win, they're going to fire you. If you don't win as a player, they're going to criticize you, right? And it doesn't matter if you want to cry and lay up and watch movies with your dogs or your fingernails got painted. That kind of stuff only matters if you lose. If
Facts.
if you would have won and said you wanted to watch TV with your dogs, you'd have a commercial about TVs and dogs if you were
Mhm.
winning. But when you lose, man, people just they can't wait to come for you when you lose, and that's just part of the game, and it's the life you chose.
Speaking of that, as we get ready to let you go, coach, and we appreciate you. Have you ever seen two head coaches face each other one weekend and both get fired the same weekend? I've never ever seen that, right? Jimbo wins 51-14 over Mississippi State. He gets dismissed. People said that the decision was made before the game or prior to the game. And then Zach Arnett gets dismissed from Mississippi State, I believe, on that Sunday night, late Sunday night. I've never seen anything like it. How do you see that Texas A&M, which is a prime job, you know, is Deion Sanders a real contender for that job? Dan Lanning came out publicly and said, "Nah, I'm not going anywhere." Who are some of the candidates that you see? Because Notre Dame fans want to know because Notre Dame's first game of the year in 2024 is Texas A&M down at College Station.
Well, they'll know sooner or later. I've talked with Coach Sanders and Coach Lanning in the last 48 hours, and neither one of them is a real candidate at this point for that job. They both are focused on building up Colorado and Oregon's programs, in the work that they're doing there. Um, but in terms of who they should go get, if I was Texas A&M,
Mhm.
right, and my expectation was national championship, I would only go hire somebody who has demonstrated that they can consistently put their team in that position, and I would be willing to pay them whatever it took. So I would look at Dabo Sweeney,
Mm.
um, who at Clemson doesn't have the NIL situation that some other guys, and it's causing them to lose some recruiting.
Now, is that because of Dabo's approach, or is that the pushback from Clemson administration? Because the narrative has been Dabo has pushed back against NIL a little bit.
Well, I don't really pay attention to narratives. I pay attention to what I know to be true.
Hmm.
Dabo wants to win more than anybody, and they're not competitive from an NIL standpoint. When you get down to what's going on in recruiting today, and so sometimes when you say you don't like something, it's because you know that you don't have access to what it takes, to compete. The second person that I would go have a conversation with would be Urban Meyer, because Urban Meyer has demonstrated with consistency that he can compete at a national championship level. You know, that's what I would do if it was me.
All right. Once again, Coach Reed live on Instagram and Twitter. Coach Carl Reed. Don't forget, college football analyst. You can catch him on 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. And don't forget, Coach Reed Live, the podcast. Anything else you want to pub that you have coming up, Coach?
Man, we all good. Tune in to us on 24/7 on Monday, December 4th, when we do the Transfer Palooza show. I think you guys will all really enjoy it. We got some special guests coming on and groundbreaking transfer portal recruiting information.
Transfer Palooza, December 4th, and it's flip season. It's going crazy right now in college football. End of the season, going into the playoffs. It's the best time. Thank you, Coach Carl Reed, for joining us today on the Lucky Lefty podcast. We love and appreciate you, big bro.
All right.
All right. Once again, Coach Carl Reed, right here, Lucky Lefty podcast. He fit us into his schedule today, gave us 30 minutes. Oh my God. Woo, man. I skipped a week. I'm sorry, LL Nation. I'm out here looking like Grizzly Adams. I promise you, boy, we never look like this ever again. I think my appointment is Thursday at noon. Yes, tomorrow at noon. So I might have to push the show back because I cannot be looking like this. Lucky Lefty podcast. I forgot we did have a question. I get to the bad question. Hopefully he answered it. And if not, I'll allow Malik when he taps in to get to it. So we have some video, some things that we were going to play, and I might play it again for Left. And I mentioned that on the recruiting hour on Irish Breakdown, we have a very special guest this week. Noon Eastern, Irish Breakdown recruiting hour with myself and my guy Ryan Roberts. Big time guest from the 24 class joins us on Friday. Don't miss it, Friday at noon over at Irish Breakdown. All right. Here is the guest we had on last week that I got Malik excited about. And I told him, I was like, I got to get permission to play this clip. And here he is, SHAUN Sevillano Jr., talking about not only his love for the NFL and playing football, but also what he wants to do when he gets to Notre Dame in January.
So you are enrolling early though, right? You are a January enrollee.
Yes,
What is your goals, man, as far as maybe that first couple months there, the spring ball? What do you want to get across to the Notre Dame coaches and all the spectators as far as like what you can bring to the team?
Mm-hmm. So I've said this before on different interviews or articles that I've been a part of. I'm the biggest go-getter out there, and I'm going to make a statement. Just making it and being on campus isn't enough for me. My goal by the end of my time as a football player is to be the best to ever play the game. So I'm here to come take somebody's spot. I'm here to come start as soon as I can.
That last part is what got Malik so excited. Like, that's not the usual recruit speech from Notre Dame recruits. Usually we get, man, I just love the university. I want to get used to, going to class and just, learning the game from the coaches and getting adjusted. And SHAUN Sevillano Jr., it's like, man, look, I'm coming to take somebody's spot. I'm putting people on notice. And I'm like, yo, that is an attitude. That's a nastiness that we need from Big Bear. That is his nickname. That's his nickname that's been given to him by Notre Dame fans. And I love it, Big Bear. What do you love to do, SHAUN? What is it that you love to do?
Honestly, I could say so many different places that it comes from, but I think the big thing is my love for this game is probably the biggest thing. There's nothing I want to do other than play football in my life. I've never thought about working a 9-to-5 job. I've never thought about being a teacher or being a fireman or whatever it might be. There's nothing I've ever wanted to do but play football. And then also part of that is probably the mentality my parents instilled in me since I was a kid. It's like, if somebody's in your way and trying to stop you from their goal, you better punch them in the face and get by them. that's all it is to it. And to me, it's become this game is kill or be killed. So
Yes.
they call
Well,
me a killer, I guess.
Ooh, they call me a killer, I guess. Look, I'll take a few more of these type of mentalities on the Notre Dame roster. I'm telling you, and as Malik said when he broke down his film, if you missed Malik's film breakdown of this young man from his senior season, go watch it. It was on Monday's show, and Malik, what he loved the most is he's like, yo, the kid is 330 pounds. Now, somebody talked about his cardiovascular shape. I don't know what that means. How do you judge his cardiovascular shape? Like, he hasn't played it down. But I will say this, if you go watch his film, you see his quickness. Last thing I'm worried about, especially as much as he works out, squatting like 650 pounds, like, you don't get to squat 650 if you're not putting in the work. He's constantly posting videos of like, going to practice, leaving practice, going to personal trainers, working with personal trainers in season, during the summer. We talked about that during the interview, his work ethic and where it comes from and why he is who he is, coming from Canada after 1 year up there, making a decision and the sacrifice of his family to take him down to Florida where the best competition is and to get him across from other people. And immediately when he gets there, he's thrown into the fire. And the young man says, yo, I'm the player I am today because I got my butt kicked. And there's not a lot of people in the world that are willing to go that route, understanding, yo, more than likely I'm going to lose or I'm going to get my butt kicked early. But I tell you one thing, I'm going to continue to work my tail off. Nobody's going to stop me from becoming the player I want to be. And at the end of the day, that's what we get in Sean Sevillano Jr. And it's very interesting because the initial reaction to his recruitment, because his recruitment, like Florida was on him, Florida State was on him, Ohio State was on him, right? And immediately his recruitment picked up in the aftermath of the Justin Scott fiasco and everything that was going on, right? So he was kind of overlooked because of that by a lot of Notre Dame fans. And his junior film just wasn't as explosive as his senior film, to keep it a buck. It just wasn't. And so a lot of fans were like, we're settling, when he get Justin Scott. Well, I mean, Ohio State and Larry Johnson wanted this young man as well. So he's 330 pounds. Like I said, puts in the work on and off the field, at the school, on his own dime to be the best he wants to be. The young man told you, dude, I'm NFL. That's another thing we don't hear from a lot of Notre Dame recruits. They talk 4 for 40, how Notre Dame impacts their life, their career. This kid is like, man, I'm coming to Notre Dame to go to the NFL. That's all I want to do. That's it. Doesn't mean he won't be a great student. Doesn't mean he won't be a great citizen of the Notre Dame family and the University of Notre Dame. But this is a young man that is being out front, open, and honest. I'm an NFL player. That's my dream. That's all I've ever dreamed about. That's it. And for Notre Dame to be able to close on a guy that has that mentality, in my opinion, is pretty huge. And his relationship with Davion Dixon, another young man, another 315-pound defensive tackle from the state of Florida that's already committed in the 25 class. That's his guy. That bodes well. That bodes well. That seems to be like a narrative changing signing to get a kid that's not coming to Notre Dame because of the academics. He believes in the football program and that Al Washington can get him to where he needs to be. And that's the NFL. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Because it seems like those recruiting battles, we lost a lot, right? When it came down to the football side and who could develop me and get me to the NFL, most of the time those guys, they choose another school. But this young man chose Notre Dame and chose Coach Al Washington. So, in my opinion, not only is that a win on the recruiting trail, that's a win in the narrative of Notre Dame as well. Lucky Lefty podcast. I want to save the Jared Parker conversation, but I do want to say this. As Coach Carr Reed pointed out, it's interesting how you can view play action. But as Coach Carr Reed said, if you're speaking at play action from a wide receiver standpoint, facing a team that plays man to man, that's one thing. But if you're talking about it from a strictly chess piece, tight end, as he pointed out, situation, taking advantage of the middle of the field, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because he also said, transitioning Sam Hartman, you needed to understand he's not a quarterback that can make all of the throws to every part of the field. That's not his strength. Can he throw the deep ball? Yes. Do teams fear? Man, this dude can throw it over my head. Not really. And Jared Parker and Gino Guidugli, maybe they didn't truly understand the transition that needed to take place for Sam Hartman, right? I want Sam Hartman to go out with a bang. Despite the disappointment, I want him to ball out against his former team on senior day. I want him to go out to the West Coast, hang 50 on Stanford. And then I want the young man to play. I think he needs to play in the bowl game, possibly against an SEC team, and ball out. I want that for him, right? That's just, humanism, right? It's been disappointing. I'm sure it's been hard. I'm sure he hears everything that's being said. He understands that it's been failure. This relationship with him in Notre Dame. But in the same breath, I just want him to go out. I don't want him to go out like this. And I'm all on board. In fairness, if Steve Angeli would have gotten the start on Saturday, I would have understood. Would have been a thumbs up from me. And I would say, man, let's get this train rolling in 2024, right? Let's do it. Let's get him 3 starts under his belt, right? Which would actually be perfect, right? Let's get him 2 starts under his belt, bowl prep, bowl game, and let him go ahead and go into 24 equipped to see what he can do. Unfortunately, that's probably not happening, right? But some way, somehow, I just want to see him go out better than this. As much as we've lamented everything that has taken place with Sam Hartman and Notre Dame this year, in my heart of hearts, man, I don't want him to go out like this. Not one of the most decorated college quarterbacks ever. I don't want to see him go out like this. So, man, I want him to ball out the last 2 games. Yeah, I understand. I understand it might not matter. I get it. Forgive me, guys. I had to blow my nose. I didn't want to be disrespectful. But, yo, I just don't want him to go out like that, man. I don't. And that's just the human side of me. I can step out of my fandom and say, man, look, young man, it didn't work out. But you know what? The breakup can be amicable. That's all I'm saying. The breakup can be amicable. Ball out, get these 2 wins. It's not going to change the fact that I still think everything was a failure. It's not going to change my disappointment. But hey, I don't want this to be where things are. I don't want this to be your legacy. I just don't. I don't want this to be your legacy, man. You know, I guess at the end of the day, Notre Dame fans, you can just call me a big softy, right? Just call me a big softy, man. Lucky Lefty podcast. CFP poll question. I'm sorry, the LL poll question of the day. We didn't get to the results from the other day. What type of quarterback? What type of quarterback should Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame target in the transfer portal? Should they target a starter? Should they target a depth piece? And should they target something that depends on what they see from the quarterbacks on the roster during the bowl prep? Should that affect the decision? Let us know what your thoughts are. What type of quarterback? You can go to the YouTube page right now, man. Subscribe. The thumb, the one that points up, smash it for us. We greatly appreciate it. Your comments, we respond to all because we appreciate you. You're the best fans in all of college football. And we greatly appreciate how you tap in and have the chat lit each and every day. It's the Lucky Lefty podcast. You already know. We spin it different. Let's get to some of your comments. Mike in Oklahoma, SD. Sam don't care. He's a great indie guy and knows what's in our cards. That means he would be okay with PBJ playing second halves moving forward. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's the case. We talked about this on Monday's show. Can we really call him an ND guy? Can we really call Sam Hartman? I guess that's another question. Can we really call him an ND guy? Jason Smith, thank you for tapping in. If Hartman loves ND like he says he does, he pulls the Rudy movie and goes in and lays his jersey on the desk. Oh, good one, Jason Smith. Good one. Look, man, you guys know I have been on Sam Hartman's you know what for a couple of weeks. And I've just come to the place like, man, I just don't really want him to go out like that. I don't want him to go out like that. But that would be funny, though, if that actually played out. I don't know how we would find out, but if that actually did play out, that would be hilarious. It would be hilarious. I'm going to go to this one question. Don't forget, the super chats are back up. If you want to put in a super chat, we greatly appreciate you. Yeah, Jeff Fluke, you're right. You're right. For today, he's Sam Hartman. For today. Tomorrow, he goes back to being known as 10. He's 10 and 10 only after today. I had a good prayer this morning. My morning prayer went really well. My heart is softened. I'm going to use his name today. But tomorrow, he's going back to 10. Oh, man. Jay Henry. A lot of people agree with you, Jay Henry. Let Kenny develop, get that depth piece in case it doesn't work out. Right about now, 50%, 56% of the votes agree with you, Jay. 56% of the votes agree with you. 22% say go get a starter. And then 23% say it depends on the quarterbacks on the roster and how they progress during bowl prep. I see Jay Henry has another question. Do you think Quinn Ewers' possible return to Texas could cause Arch and Malik to hit the portal? As already, Arch has been connected to Brian Kelly and LSU. Arch has also been connected to Miami and Arch in Florida State. Watch Arch in Florida State. Well, just watch Florida State, definitely at the quarterback position. With Jordan Travis leaving, they have youngsters on the roster. One, I forget the kid that was interested in Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame kind of cooled on him, and he eventually signed with Florida State. They have him in the mix, but if Norvell wants to keep the train going after the success of this season, I fully expect him to go after the top of one of the top quarterbacks in the transport portal. Absolutely. Absolutely. Malik Murphy had the perfect reason to leave, but I think Malik Murphy understands that either Quinn goes to the NFL, and if Quinn doesn't go to the NFL, he's better off still letting Steve Sarkisian develop him as a quarterback. And then Quinn Ewers is always injured. Always. So Malik will probably get to play next year. You know, I think Arch is the one to watch. I really do. I think Arch Manning is the one to watch. David Solomon, thanks for tapping in as we wait. Now, we're going to play this by ear, guys. So I'm waiting for Malik to hit me back. He's en route to his home. He's landed. When we started the show, he was actually landing back in California. And so either I'm going to end the show and then we're going to start back up probably in about 30 minutes, or he's going to tap in shortly if the traffic is okay out in LA. David Solomon, thank you so much. Hartman has disappointed, but they're not going to pull him these last couple of games. The coaching staff still believes he's their best chance to win the last two games. Marcel, not speaking of ND, but if Chop Kelly, I know you mean Chip Kelly, is fired, do you think the reports are that decision has been made, which is crazy? Do you think Dante? No, I don't think Dante ends up in Notre Dame. But that's an interesting question. I'll have Malik reach out to him because they still talk and see where his head is. But I don't think that ship has sailed, right? Because I don't think the NIL situation at Notre Dame is going to change. I don't think that's going to change. Josh Buffo, the motivational business banker, you said something yesterday on Irish Breakdown in the chat that was actually absolutely spot on. I just want to give you credit for that. But realistically, we should be able to roll any of our quarterbacks against Wake Forest and Stanford and still win by no less than 2 touchdowns. Josh, I couldn't disagree with you. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. You're spot on again. You're spot on with that. You're spot on with that. I totally agree. Jason Smith, thank you for tapping in. What do you think is the biggest issue with the offensive struggles, OC, quarterback, or is it a couple of things together, or is it a Marcus Freeman issue? This is their question on the Scantron where you say, man, Do they have a all of the above or none? I mean, I I'm telling you guys, it is dysfunction. It is the dysfunction of the OC search, the dysfunction of not supporting the head coach, the dysfunction of Tommy Reese leaving, the dysfunction of hiring Jared Parker, asking him to run Tommy Reese's offense for continuity, the dysfunction of not having a guy for the vision of Sam Hartman in this offense no longer there, the dysfunction of Sam Hartman not being made comfortable, the dysfunction of Sam Hartman not understanding that heavy is the head that wears the crown of the quarterback position at Notre Dame, and it's totally different than Wake Forest. It's dysfunction, man. Throw in lack of development at wide receiver, injury to your veterans at wide receiver that was supposed to be your main two starters, playing the freshman wide receivers out of position, lack of creativity, play calling, offensive line inconsistency. I mean, you name it, man. Honestly, you name it. What can go wrong has gone wrong offensively this year for Notre Dame. When they make an incredible play call, the players can't execute it. It is, it has just been one of those seasons. And it started off really promising, right? But we knew the true test would be Ohio State, Duke, USC, Clemson. That's how we felt at the start of the season. And then Louisville ended up being a test as well. So, like I said, when I did the show, I believe it was last week, and I said, Notre Dame fans, let's rest our hearts a bit, right? Because what gets us riled up is the frustration that we've been dealing with. And that frustration comes from a lot. It's like, it's not one thing, right? Recruiting frustration, the lack of NIL frustration, the lack of, being lenient via transfers and not always having to go get grad transfers or guys that are going into their third or fourth years, things of that nature. The administration, supporting the head coach, assistant coach salaries and being able to get the best and balking on buyouts. And as Coach Carl Reed said, like being honest, like Notre Dame is not a job that you want to give to a first-time head coach. You don't. Notre Dame did. But in doing that, you don't hire the offensive coordinator before you hire the head coach, basically saying like, nah, you're gonna have to take him. Like what elite program does that? Either you have the confidence and the kahunas or the balls to hire a first-time head coach, or you don't. Or you don't. That's just it. But if you're gonna hire the man, have the kahunas to step out and be different and be willing to take the bullets. Or let me remove bullets. Be willing to take the scrutiny that comes with the job as athletic director of the University of Notre Dame. But from the time Marcus Freeman has been hired, man, it's just been so many questionable things, guys. It really has. It's just been so many questionable things that have sown seeds of discord or seeds of dysfunction that I think over the last 2 years have kind of like played out and yielded a harvest for us to watch and for us to feel as the fan base. And I'm not here to debate this is right, that's right. What I am here to tell you is that we're the ones, along with those young men inside the program, that suffer from it. We suffer on the side of fandom and viewing, and they suffer as far as support and culture. You're trying to build culture, but it's hard to build culture when you have things that are perceived as obstacles or resistance coming from the inside. Like you expect resistance from the outside, but things resisting the growth of the culture on the inside, I don't think anybody wants that. I don't think anybody wants that, right? So you ask me, like, yo, what happened against Clemson? Dysfunction. Dysfunction. And I've talked about this, man. We did a 5-hour show. If you guys missed it, Brian Driscoll and myself, we did a 5-hour show yesterday. And we previewed Wake Forest and we talked about some of the things that Marcus Freeman said. So, someone asked about the offense in the chat a little bit earlier. Marcus Freeman, I can only take him at his word. He said the offense that we're running is not the offense I see us running in the future at Notre Dame. So in my mind, when he says that, he's talking about, once I get my guys, I know I need to recruit playmakers, talent at the quarterback position, at the wide receiver position. Like we already have offensive line and running backs pretty solidified. Man, Notre Dame is a tight end factory. Like he knows what he needs to go out and get. But you still have to develop them, coach. Right? You can go out and get them, but you still have to develop them. Unless you're blessed to have one of them ones. Right? Right, guys? Unless you get a Michael Floyd to come in next year, Michael Floyd type, and the fan base is hoping and praying that Cam Williams can be that. Micah Gilbert, as he comes with Bryce Young from the same school, that they both can be those type of impactful freshmen on both sides of the ball, right? But even in that, they still have to continue to be developed. And we had somebody on the show the other day that, man, that with all the hype that Cam Williams is getting, it seems very similar to the same hype that Tobias had. And I said, I was around for Tobias and his recruitment, and I don't remember any hype anywhere close to Cam Williams' hype after you saw his senior tape versus his junior tape. I think the hype of Cam Williams is totally different. Totally different. However, the hype coming out of spring camp, based upon what people inside the program were saying, which is like crazy, right? Because all of the buzz came from inside the program. This is what he's doing in practice. This is what he's doing in drills. He's dominating all of our DBs, just straight running by them and making plays, right? Then you get to the regular season, and it's like, he can't get snaps? Like, dude, why did you sell us on what he was doing in practice and then get us to the regular season and the real games, and he can't even get on the field? It's one of the most confusing things I've ever seen covering Notre Dame football. It's confusing, right? It was almost like they campaigned for the young man. They literally, dude, no one was making this up. This inside information was coming from the staff and people inside the program. And then you get to the season, and it's like, well, he doesn't know the playbook. Wait a minute. He's killing the DBs in practice. He's making plays, but he doesn't know the playbook when the regular season comes up. Like somebody said in the chat, the math is not mathing. How does that work? Help me out, LL Nation. Is that not confusing? Am I the only one sitting here that's confused? I'm confused. How is he dominate in practice, but he doesn't know the playbook? Whatever play you called in practice for him to dominate, call that play. Call that play 3 to 5 times a game. That's it. And then take him off the field. If he knows one play or 2 plays or whatever it is, call those plays and then take him off the field. He should get 5 snaps a half and then take him off the field. That's it. I didn't understand. I still don't understand. I don't know if I'll ever understand the logic behind that. And I'll say it again. They failed to instill confidence. Look, it's one thing I will say about Rico and Jaden Greathouse. They have had their struggles, but because of their struggles, they are developing. And because of their struggles, they are gaining confidence. They are learning what they can't do, what they need to get better at, and what they can do. They're not learning that in practice. They're learning that every week against top Power 5 competition. That's invaluable, man. That's invaluable. How do you not get Tobias Merriweather the same type of experience last year? It boggles my mind. How do you campaign for this young man the way you did in the offseason as a staff, as a program, and then waste the opportunity for him to develop and go through the struggles that he's going through now as a sophomore? He should not be going through freshman struggles as a sophomore. But maybe it's a case that the staff learned their lesson from Tobias, and they said, we're not going to commit the same atrocity with Jaden Greathouse and Rico Flores. Or it might be that injuries just forced their hand. That might be the case as well. But see, that's what, because I'm not, look, I understand. Y'all y'all upset, frustrated with Tobias. That's fine. But we're gonna have a real conversation. Because I'm confused. No, look, people go at Brian Driscoll. Because Brian Driscoll was one of the leaders of like, yo, this is what I'm hearing. But see, that's the thing. He wasn't calling, asking for information. People inside the program were like, yo, Brian, this dude he's killing all of our DBs. Running, making plays, 50-50 balls, everything. You put out a campaign for this young man. You put out a campaign for him. You got the fan base excited. And then you don't even play him? I don't care if he doesn't even have to be the first progression. Put him on the field. Let him get used to blocking. Let him get used to running routes. You don't have to throw him the ball. Heck, I understand Drew Pine was the quarterback. It wasn't like you were about to be throwing the ball all over the field. Unless you were playing a defense like North Carolina, right? Well, Drew Pine is the quarterback. You're not about to be throwing the ball all over the field. I get it. That could impact, we really can't get the ball to this young man because he's our guy that takes the top off the field. Really don't have a quarterback that can get it to him. I got it. You can still give him snaps. Get him snaps. There's nothing more invaluable than playing, man. Nothing. And I've said this, you cannot miss out on allowing him to go through the struggles. Like Sean Zaviliano said in the interview with us on Friday. Sean, how did you become this player now? I got my butt kicked. That's what he flat out said. I got my butt kicked. And that's what freshmen, unless they're one of those ones, you have to allow freshmen to get their butt kicked. You have to allow young players to get their butt kicked. 3 to 5 snaps a game. Go out there, compete. If you get your butt kicked, learn from it. Get better. That's it. That's it. That's it. And it's not on us as fans. That's why we need to relax. That's why I tell fans, man, y'all rest y'all hearts, man, because y'all go too hard for one side, right? Like he's a bust. Then the other side, you got to give him time. And everybody wants to go hard. Guess what? None of us control his fate. He controls his fate. He can still become a dominant player in college football. Your opinion doesn't control that. It's an opinion. That's all it is. It's an opinion. That's why the master, Notre Dame is the masters of having practice players that get buzzed at the wide receiver position and they don't produce until their senior year. Right? Javon McKinley, right? Ben Skoranek, who's a transfer, Miles Boykin. It's like, dude, that's for whatever reason, injuries, disappointment. Like, dude, that has been consistent at Notre Dame. That's why I said my guy Deion Colsey is right on target. Right on target for a breakout season next year. Right on target. But we had a question. Somebody asked me yesterday, on IB, what are my thoughts on Chancey? I said he's a great recruiter. I know he's a really good dude. I've had personal conversations with him, right? And my best conversations with staff have been with Coach Mickens and Coach Stuckey. Two great dudes. Two great dudes. Great conversations just to sit down and shoot the breeze with. Great recruiter, great guy. Heck, the NFL came after him last year. So the NFL was keeping tabs on him. They thought well enough of the job he did at Baylor the year before and the job he did last year with those release packages he brought, LL Nation, right? But that seems to be an issue. That seems to be an issue. You guys give me one. There seems to be an issue in the development department. Let's just have an honest conversation. Let's have an honest conversation, man. 'Cause I don't care who you are. Don't tell me a young man is making plays. No one is making this up. No one in the Notre Dame media made this up. Don't tell me as a staff that a young man is making plays and then try to sell me that he doesn't know the playbook. Don't play the Notre Dame fan base like they're stupid. Don't do that. Don't do that. This fan base is too loyal, too locked in, and too knowledgeable to try to sneak that past this fan base. Don't do that. Don't sell that. That's crap. That's crap. Do not sell this fan base on a young man. Tell the fan base he's making plays against some of the best defensive backs in the country. And then get to the real games and act like he doesn't know the playbook. Then what the hell is he running when he's making plays in practice? Please explain it to me. Please explain it to me. Because I'm not absolving Tobias Merriweather anything. I just need anybody in the chat to explain that to me. Because nobody went looking for the narrative concerning Tobias Merriweather. Notre Dame put it out. Notre Dame put it out. That's why I said it doesn't compare to Cam Williams. Cam Williams' buzz comes from what he's put on film and the work he's put in. Exactly, Jason Smith. Is he just out there freelancing in practice? Run whatever route you want to run. Forget the play. Just do what you want to do. Go make plays. Like, explain it to me. And I'm not trying, like I said, I'm not making excuses for the young man. What I'm telling you is, if you want to hear some truth, listen to me. What you're seeing on the field, going back to the question about the offense that I was asked, what you're seeing is dysfunction that comes from certain seeds that have been sown in the program. And now you're seeing the harvest of it on Saturday mornings or afternoons or evenings. It's dysfunction. Plain and simple. And what you're watching Tobias Merriweather go through, that's the same thing Rico is going through this year. Inconsistent routes that lead to interceptions, giving up interceptions because you're not battling for the ball in the 50-50. Freshman mistakes. Tobias Merriweather is doing freshman stuff as a sophomore. The thing is, the narrative is different. Let's be honest, because we can be on both sides of this coin. I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to give you guys about 15 to 20 seconds to light the chat up. If Tobias Merriweather had played this year, right now, was this game 10? 10 games into the season last year, if Tobias Merriweather had 12 receptions and he averaged 20 yards of reception, what would have been your thoughts on Tobias Merriweather? I'm going to give you guys 15 to 20 seconds to let me know. If 10 games into his freshman year, Tobias Merriweather had 12 receptions, averaging 20 yards of reception, how would you have felt about Tobias Merriweather? How would you feel? I'm going to give you guys, because you guys are lighting it up right now, I'm going to give you guys about 10 more seconds. How would you feel if 10 games into his freshman year, he had 12 receptions and averaged 20 yards per reception? How would you feel? All right, P-Dub says we got one. Jay Grizz, he's a dude. Jason Smith, he's going to be a star. Roosevelt Carney, we should have gave Parker the keys to the offense. That's for another conversation. Apollo 27, I would have been cool. Josh, he would be a dog and Hartman would be throwing a deep like he did away. ND Notre Dame fan. We finally got one. ND9. He's going to be one of them ones. Apollo 20. Man, progress. Boom. He's on fire. I see you, D-Rock Irish NBA Jam. Ryan Loftus. I say that's decent for a freshman. Not everyone is MJ. Brian Henry, not bad for a freshman. Yeah, I would think he's going to be a dude. Jason Smith, we got a star in the making. This is, dude, let's just ask honest questions. He's going through what he should have gone through this year, what he should have gone through last year. That's just being real. We're watching him go through with what he should have experienced last year. And our expectations were built up not because of the film. Nobody was like touting his film. We're like, okay, this kid is all right. It was the buzz that people inside the program created. The stories they were putting out. They created the buzz. People went into the Ohio State game waiting to see this dude on the field. Not because of film, because of Notre Dame. Notre Dame started this. And with each game, the fan base is like, yo, where is he at? What? Wait a minute. Where is he at? And then you elevate the kid to starter. So Notre Dame fans, maybe he is an absolute beast in practice. And just doesn't have the same heart on Saturdays. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Could be a possibility. But if you guys remember, we came on this show the Monday after the blue and gold game and told you about a conversation we had with someone that told us, yo, hit the brakes on Tobias. He still needs to develop. And we came on the podcast and we were like, hey guys, we're just letting you know, as far as Tobias Merriweather, pump the brakes, ease the expectations. Very credible source that played the position. He would know. He played the position. And he said, man, relax. He still has confidence. One of the things he said, he's still trying to get that confidence. He's still trying to get that confidence. And we came and we were honest. We were like, yo, this is what's being said. So now that we get here, what that person told us is ringing loud. It's ringing like the Liberty Bell. It's truth. And that's it. That's it. Brian Hinton, what'd you say here? Oh, NC Notre Dame fan. Did he play in any big games in high school? I don't know anything about watching high school football. I'm sure local people would say, yeah, he played in big games. I'm sure they would say yes. Brian Hatton, maybe he's not getting hit in practice, but he knows he is in the game. It really looks like he's scared to get hit. None of us really know what's in somebody's heart, right? Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men, right? We can only guess, man. We can only guess. We can only guess. But then that doesn't make, you know what else doesn't make sense in this equation? Last year, Marcus Freeman was asked about playing the young players. And Marcus Freeman said, I don't do gamers. You guys remember that? Remember that? He's like, we don't do gamers. If you want to get on the field, you have to do it in practice. Okay. Isn't that what you guys consistently said he was doing? You consistently said he was getting it done in practice. And we come to the games, and now is he doesn't know the playbook. It's just it's a conundrum. And because of that, the young man is going through the struggles that he should have gone through last year. And it's the same struggles that Jaden Greathouse, Enrico Flores, not Eli Raritan. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. The kid that caught the touchdown against Pitt. Oh my God. I didn't take my vitamins this morning, guys. I'm sorry. But the freshman tight end, they're all learning. Jeremiah Love, they're all learning. They're learning. They're learning. They're making mistakes. No, not Holden States. Cooper Flanagan. Cooper Flanagan. They're learning. That's the only way to get better in life. You learn. Get your butt kicked. Get up. Everybody can't be one of them ones. Most of us have taken. We've taken an L. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that, man. Most of us have taken an L at some point. You know? Shoot. Like I told Malik the other day, looking at Lawrence Key's stats, this dude has 7 touchdowns. I don't even know if we have 7 touchdowns in total as a wide receiver core. I'll look it up just to confirm, but I feel pretty confident. Tyree has 3. Rico has 1. Jaden Thomas has 1. Tobias has 1. Jaden Greathouse has 3. Okay. No, they do. Jordan Faison has 1. They have 11. They have 11. I stand corrected. I stand corrected. They have 11 as a wide receiver room. Lawrence Keys he just had 1 last week. He has 8 right now. He has 8. I love the chat. I love you guys. Maybe if John Wick would release the damn ball. John Wick. Oh man. That's fantastic, dude. And Notre Dame's stadium is the Continental, huh? The South Bend Continental. That's fantastic, man. I love you guys. I love you guys. NC Notre Dame fan, but why does learning the wide receiver position at Notre Dame take so long? I am tired of seeing these other teams with true freshman wide receivers lighting it up, shaking my head. Something is just not clicking, right? This is funny because I remember Notre Dame fans would come on this chat. They probably did it because they knew the relationship that I have with Carnell Tate. And they would crack jokes like, yeah, Carnell's on that bench, though. This is like when Rico and Jaden were playing. Like Rico and Jaden are playing, McCarnell's on that bench, which I thought was funny. And I'm like, look who's in front of Rico and Jaden Greathouse, and look who's in front of Cardell. Yeah, but yeah, watch Ohio State games now. Watch them now. Right? Jaden Greathouse, as of right now, because I don't mind being honest. I don't mind being honest. If I had to lay down a bet, and I'm not a betting man, who would get drafted higher and who would have better stats in college, I'm putting my money on Cardell Tate. And I don't control the fate of any of these young men. But I'm betting on that wide receiver coach, that offensive coordinator, and that system, and what they religiously develop. That's it. I'm not betting on Cardell. I'm betting on that Ohio State wide receiver system. That's what I'm betting on. Because they're putting out Ibuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. this year, and they got 5 stars sitting on the bench waiting. Cajun Irish. And Ohio State hasn't won a national championship, not playing trestle ball. Dude, I'm not sitting up here caping for Ohio State. I care less about Ohio State. We're talking about development at the wide receiver. And what NC Notre Dame fans said, which is valid. It's frustrating. Why can't Notre Dame get impactful freshman receivers consistently? Why can't they? Why? Right. And once again, of course, I wasn't there for obvious reasons during the fall camp, but during the spring, I came on the Lucky Lefty podcast and Irish Breakdown and was like, yo, Rico's going to be all right. Rico's going to play this year, along with Jaden Greathouse. I'm not shocked that Rico and Jaden Greathouse are playing. That's not a shock. They're good. And they're going to be even better. They're good. You know who else will be playing if he was here? Cardell Tate. And he would be your outside guy. But if I'm laying a bet on all 3, I'm not betting on the young man, any of them. I'm betting on the system. I'm betting on the system. So Left said he needs some time to get settled. So I'm going to give, let's see. Yeah, he said he needs about 30 more. So what we'll do is I'll finish up with you guys, go get some lunch. I'll post. We're going to give you 2 shows today because we owe you. We apologize for the mix-up with the times yesterday. It was supposed to be 11 a.m. Left had a production call. Then we were supposed to do 5. That's my mistake. I forgot he was on Eastern time zone. And by that time, he had to be headed to the stadium to do the game. So that's totally on me. I apologize to all of you that might have been waiting in the chat. So we're going to give you 2 well, I'll do it. 2 shows. That's 4, but we're gonna give you 2 shows today. 2 shows today. We owe you. Join late. Have we hammered Rudolph? He made decision to ride with Coogan over Shroud. Our entire O-line regressed under him, except for Rocco, maybe Aldrich's exceptional running covers up a lot. Scott, I have not. I don't. No, I'm just not one of those people that cover and covers Notre Dame that grabs the low hanging fruit of the offensive line. I'm just not one of those people, and I said it on with Brian Driscoll yesterday. Show me an offensive line that has had 3 different mindsets, ideologies, and ways of playing thrown at them that's going to play any better than Notre Dame's offensive line has played. We got Coach McNulty. I want you to play this way. Play differently than Harry Heastand. Okay. Harry Heastand. Oh, we're back to power. We're back to duo. That's what we're going to do. Straight ahead. Joe Rudolph comes in. Hey, guys, we're going to be real athletic. Forget all that straight ahead power stuff. We're just going to pin and pull the backside. 3 different ideologies, mindsets. And we continue to think that this offensive line and these young men are going to be developed and perfected. We have no empathy at all to what they've had to go through. But we will protect Sam Hartman to death for having to change his systems. Oh, we got to protect 10. Oh my God, you don't understand. They messed 10 up. They messed him up. They ruined Sam Hartman. They should have brought his system over to Notre Dame. They ruined it. But then we want to cast all the blame on the offensive line when these young men have had to change the way they are asked to play 3 consecutive years. 3 consecutive years. So maybe there's a reason why. Because there's a reason why in the second year, Notre Dame's defense under Al Golden is a whole lot better than it was the first year. Give some of the same grace to Joe Rudolph, man. Why is everybody like jumping off the ledge on Joe Rudolph? Why does he not deserve the same grace that Al Golden should have gotten? When you come in as a coach, it takes a year or 2 for the foundation to be laid, especially when you're changing the entire dynamic of what the offensive line has been asked to do. And nobody really considers that, man. We just don't. So no, I don't do that. I don't grab the low-hanging fruit. I try to be empathetic, to everything. I've even tried to be empathetic to 10. I brought Ken Gibbs on. Ken Gibbs gave points to how Notre Dame messed up and could have been better by Sam Hartman. Coach Carl Reed just gave points. I'm just telling you, man. You have to, you just have to, this has not been a offensive line that's had 3 years. Now, if this was Harry Heastand, still the O-line coach, and they played the way they played this year, well, first of all, if it was Harry Heastand, I don't think that would be a problem. Scott, he said, I hear that, Shaun, and agree that should be factored into the O-line ceiling. But our O-line played their worst games in 2 of our losses and their best game in 1 loss. We declined as the year went on. No, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. Offensive line also played good enough to beat Clemson. You're not about to hang that off. That Clemson loss, we're not hanging that loss on the offensive line. Nope, not doing it. That Clemson loss is on 10, a bad first half by the defense, and a muff punt, period. I don't care how bad the offensive line played. They played good enough to win. And that's why we totally disagree with Marcus Freeman when he said you just can't, sum up the Clemson game to 2 mistakes. Yeah, you can. Those 2 mistakes gave them 10 points. You don't get them to 10 points, as bad as you played, you win that game. Yeah, you can. I like the way you're trying to cover for your entire team. I like that. You're trying to cover for Sam Hartman. You're trying to cover for Chris Tyree. That's cool. The truth of the matter is, 2 senior leaders on the squad made the biggest mistakes that gave away 10 points, and that defense didn't come to play in the first half, specifically as a run defense. That's the game. I don't care how bad the offensive line played. That's the game. Because the offensive line played good enough for Sam Hartman not to pull the trigger for Tobias Merriweather when he ran by defenders 3 times, according to people that were there at the game. Played good enough for him to be able to throw the ball, holding stays, coming across on the mesh concept, and throw it behind him on a 2nd down when it would have been a 15-yard game. They blocked well enough for Jordan Faison to be behind the Clemson defense on the 2nd to last drive, and Sam Hartman threw a terrible ball. Like, dude, you can give me all the plays, all the bad plays that Blake Fisher played bad and all this. The offensive line played good enough for Notre Dame to win that game. And that's all you ask of everybody. We need you to play good enough for us to win that game. The quarterback didn't play good enough for you to win that game. He did not. That defense did not play well enough in the first half for you to win that game. See, if you're going to come at Blake Fisher, come at that first half by that defense. I want the same venom for that defense in the first half. The same venom. Sam Hartman threw an interception on a route to Jeremiah Trotter and then turned around in the second half as a veteran quarterback, backed up in his own territory and made the same throw on the same route. And Khalil Barnes just dropped it. What are we talking about? Let's stop grabbing that low-hanging fruit, man. That's why I said they get us riled up as a fan base, and we start playing this blame game when it's all dysfunctional. The dysfunction is like team-wide. Team-wide. You got a veteran quarterback talking about he got spooked, or the head coach saying he got spooked. Dude, we gave you NIL money to be spooked? No. I'm going to need a refund. I'm going to need a percentage of that. I need some of that back. You spooked for what? So no, Scott, I'm sorry, man. You can't say I hear that. You can't. You can't wonder why guys aren't playing well or aren't developed when they're playing in a system. Dude, this is their first year in this system. This is their first year. What do players usually play like in their first year in the system? You see inconsistency. You see mistakes. That's the byproduct. We saw J.D. Bertrand last year struggle under Al Golden's system in the first year, struggling to scrape over the top, struggling taking false steps, struggling not getting to the quarterback on his blitzes, struggling timing his blitzes. J.D. Bertrand struggled last year. J.D. Bertrand in year 2, much better player than Al Golden's defense. Crazy inconsistent last year. So I'm not shocked that Billy Shroff, Rocco, the interior guys. You know what I'm excited about? I'm excited to see Ashton Craig play center this weekend. Super excited. Young man came in the fourth quarter of a hotly contested game in Death Valley against Clemson, competed and played his butt off. Heck, you can say he might have played a better game than Zeke Correll in the short time that he played. So I don't disagree with your assessment of the offensive line. I agree that their play has gotten worse as the year goes on. That's coaching. So absolutely, that's accountability. That's a responsibility that lays at the feet of Joe Rudolph. But there should have been some expectation from Notre Dame fans like, yo, we're going from Harry to this guy. He's not focused really on he's not really focused on physicality like Harry was. Harry was like, yo, we're going to be a physical group. We're going to run duo. We're going to run power. That's going to be our strength. We'll sprinkle in some other stuff. Joe Rudolph wants his guys to be athletic and less about power. And maybe they'll get some more power stuff in his second year. But, you know, that's just, you know, we shouldn't be shocked, you know. And when you really look at it big picture, you know, it gives you an opportunity to be a little bit more empathetic to the players. Because there's no excuse for Joe Rudolph because your players should get better. You know, that's what we're seeing in Alabama. Their offensive line was terrible at the beginning of the year, and they have progressively gotten better as the season is going on. That's the trajectory you want. Notre Dame kind of started off up here, and now they're playing down here, right? And then tomorrow against a lesser opponent, they'll play much better. So it was a great question, though. Andrew Gilmore. Sean, are you surprised that Chip Kelly is likely getting fired by UCLA? I'm shocked. UCLA either has unrealistic expectations or Chip Kelly angered the wrong boosters. I'm actually not shocked. I talked to my big brother, Howard Griffith, about this yesterday. And UCLA is coming into the Big Ten. You have to look at this. Man, I understand why all of these regents are having these meetings, right? Why last Thursday it's reported. I'm not sure if it's been confirmed, but it's been reported that the regents at Texas A&M met last Thursday prior to the game and made the decision to part ways with Jimbo Fisher in that meeting. Because Texas A&M knows, man, Texas and Oklahoma are coming into our division next year. Do we really want to go into that season? We know what the program is with Jimbo Fisher. Do we really want to go into that environment, battling Texas and Oklahoma with Jimbo Fisher, or do we want to go and get a guy? Do we want to go after Dabo Swinney? You have to think about that, right? And then you don't make that type of decision unless you've already had back channel conversations. Like whomever they're going after, they've been talking to their agent for like weeks. I mean, it's guaranteed. Whomever Texas A&M targets, and we'll find out shortly, they have been talking to that head coach's agent for weeks, setting it up. They've been setting it up. So with Chip Kelly and UCLA coming into the Big Ten, am I surprised that UCLA met and said, yo, we kind of know who we are as a program with Chip Kelly? Do we really want to go into the Big Ten like this? And they made the decision, according to reports, no. And like I said, you don't make a decision like that during the season unless you have targeted a guy and you know exactly who you want. And negotiations have been going on through back channels. It's pretty evident to me that that's in both cases. Like, if you don't make a decision during the season, right? You just don't. So no, I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked at all. I'm not shocked at all. All right, guys. Thank you for tapping in. I'm gonna log out, rest my throat a little bit, give me some more agua, a little bit more orange juice. Left said he needs 30 to 45 minutes. So I'll set the show time, and then we'll be right back for a second show this afternoon, man. Can't wait to get Left's input on Jared Parker's comments and what Sean Civiliano had to say. And then Left is going to break down the junior film of One Deuce Night right here on the Lucky Lefty podcast. We'll see you guys in a few, man. We appreciate you. We owe you, so we're giving you 2 today. Spend it different.